17-year-old high school athlete lined up against grown professional runners in one of track and field's most unforgiving events and crossed the line in 44.10 seconds. Not in a junior race. Not in a school championship. Against adults. And when people who spent their lives explaining how impossible elite 400-meter running really is saw the result, the reaction was immediate. Because performances like this are not supposed to happen this early. But the number alone does not explain why everyone started paying attention. To understand that, you have to look at everything that happened before the stopwatch stopped. Quincy Wilson did not come from a story that looked guaranteed from the outside. He grew up in Chesapeake, Virginia, in a family where sports already mattered. His mother competed at a high level in soccer and basketball. His father played football. His sister ran track. Athletics was normal in the household, but talent alone never guarantees anything. What changed everything was a decision most families never make. His family chose to move. Not for a job. Not for convenience. They changed states because they believed access to the right school environment and coaching could completely change his future. They relocated to Maryland so Quincy could train and compete at Bullis School under coach Joe Lee. Think about the pressure attached to that decision. Imagine being a teenager and realizing your entire family reorganized life around your opportunity. Every practice suddenly means more. Every result feels bigger. Every bad race feels personal. And yet before the attention exploded, Quincy quietly started doing things nobody his age was expected to do. At 14 years old, he broke a long-standing national underage record in the 400 meters. Records that survive decades usually survive because generations of talented athletes fail to reach them. He reached it before high school was even fully underway. People noticed, but not everyone believed. Track fans have seen prodigies before. Every few years a young athlete appears, runs unbelievable times, becomes a headline, and then disappears. Growth changes. Competition gets harder. Expectations become heavy. So the response was simple. Do it again. Show it works against stronger competition. Show it survives pressure. Show this is not one perfect day. That skepticism actually made sense. What happened next mattered because of how carefully it was handled. Coach Joe Lee never treated Quincy like a finished product. Instead of racing every chance possible and chasing headlines, training stayed controlled. Rest mattered. Long-term development mattered. Patience mattered. That approach rarely goes viral because patience looks boring when people want instant greatness. But later it became one of the biggest reasons his career stayed on track. There is another detail that says a lot about who Quincy is away from the stopwatch. After becoming part of the Olympic experience and suddenly having cameras everywhere, he talked like a normal teenager. No dramatic speeches. No superstar behavior. He wanted normal moments with friends. That attitude became important later because expectations were about to become enormous. Then Paris happened. At 16 years old, Quincy became the youngest male American track and field Olympian in modern history after joining the relay pool for Team USA. He ran in the preliminary round, experienced the pressure of the Olympic stage, and later became an Olympic gold medalist when the team finished the job. Pause and think about that. Most 16-year-olds worry about exams and weekend plans. He had an Olympic medal. The attention exploded overnight. Every race suddenly mattered more. Every result became content. Every performance created debate. And that is where things became difficult. Because being the exciting young athlete people cheer for is very different from becoming the athlete everyone expects to dominate. The next phase did not go smoothly. Early races started producing unexpected results. Meets that people assumed he would control became losses. Social media did what social media always does. One rough period turned into questions. Was the hype too much? Was the schedule too heavy? Did success arrive too early? People who celebrated him months before suddenly acted uncertain. Some fans became worried. Others acted like the entire story had changed. But development in sport rarely moves in a straight line. That became obvious during the difficult stretch. Losses arrived. Expectations stayed. Conversations became louder. For a teenager still balancing school life and elite competition, it would have been easy to panic. change coaches, change training, change everything. Instead, Quincy and his team stayed with the process. Back to training, back to routine, back to trust. Then came Memphis. Professional field, professional expectations. No excuses. Lane assignments done. Starter ready. The gun goes. Quincy attacks early but stays composed. Through the middle phase, he looks controlled instead of desperate. Coming into the final straight, the race changes. Everyone expects a teenager to fade. He accelerates. He reaches the line. 44.10. The reaction inside the stadium says everything. Because context changes numbers. That time became the fastest 400 meters ever run by an athlete under 18. Not one season. Ever. Across generations. Across countries. Across every teenager who had ever attempted this event. It also placed him among the fastest performances in the world regardless of age. Read that again. Not among teenagers. Among everyone. Experienced professionals. Established stars. Athletes in physical prime. And a high school athlete produced one of the fastest marks on the planet. People watching live struggled to explain it. Some called it unreal. Others called it historic. The conversation changed immediately. The same people questioning months earlier started asking a different question. How high is the ceiling? Because the scary part is not the record. The scary part is the age. Elite 400-meter runners often improve for years. Experience matters. Strength changes. Race intelligence develops. And Quincy reached 44.10 before reaching the years where many athletes produce their absolute best performances. What happened after the race may be even more interesting. No huge celebration. No dramatic message. No long speech about proving critics wrong. Just a calm mindset and attention moving forward. That response tells you a lot. The move. The pressure. The expectations. The difficult season. The comeback. None of it changed the approach. That may be the biggest lesson in the entire story. Talent gets attention. Consistency builds careers. Right now nobody knows exactly where the limit is. Predictions are easy. Reality is harder. But one thing feels clear. When someone this young produces performances that belong among elite adults, people stop talking about potential and start imagining possibilities. And with major championships ahead and years of development still available, the conversation is no longer whether Quincy Wilson belongs. Now the question is how far this story can actually go. So think about it. If an athlete can reach these times before finishing the normal development curve, what happens when experience catches up with talent? That answer is still waiting. And the rest of the track world is paying attention. There is another reason this performance hit differently. The 400 meters has a reputation that casual fans do not always understand. It is not pure sprinting and it is not endurance. It sits in the uncomfortable space between both. Go out too hard and your legs disappear. Hold too much back and the race is gone before the final bend. Athletes spend years learning that balance. That is why experienced runners respected the performance so much. The time was impressive, but the way it happened mattered too. Control, rhythm, timing, composure. Those qualities usually appear later. When young athletes break through, the conversation often turns extreme. Either people declare future greatness immediately or they become overly skeptical and wait for failure. Real development usually lives somewhere in the middle. There will be difficult races again. There will be expectations. There will be moments where progress looks slower than people want. That happens to nearly every great athlete.